Hey guys, Scarlet Darkwood here. Hope everyone's had a great week and a great holiday. I'm just going to jump into our topic for this week, and that is invocation. And some of you may be wondering, what is invocation? What is it? How do you use it? What's it like? And first of all, invocation is calling on an entity or a spirit or a power into your ritual. And you're doing the invocation to really take on those attributes and to bring those attributes of that entity or power to your ritual so it can help aid in the power of what you're doing. Invocation can also be part of like a ceremonial mass. The Catholics, for example, they're there to call on the Spirit of God, so they'll have an invocation as part of their mass, and that's part of what they do. And so when you're doing a ritual, you may choose to work with powers or entities and to bring their characteristics to your ritual. And you really want to choose one that's going to aid you in whatever it is you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to have power and protection, you'll call on a power that does that. If you're wanting healing, you'll call on an entity that helps with that. So you do some research so that you're not just calling on something willy-nilly without any understanding or purpose of why you're doing or what it is that you want. Some books I've read said to have a conversation with the entity, try to really bring them into focus and try to have a conversation with them. Would they be willing to work with you if they could help? I personally don't do that, though it's not a bad idea. It's just something I don't feel a need to do. I do, however, if I'm going to go an outward route, I will call on, I will do the research on the entity I want to call on, or look at what can help me tap into my higher self. And speaking of tapping into your higher self, there are different thoughts on entities and what they are. It's like, what is an entity? You know, is it an outward form? Is it a source of energy? There's different thoughts on it. Some say there's a psychological component, which really the entity has archetypes or characteristics that are really higher parts of yourself. That's what I tend to go for. Some go on the theory that entities are just energy. They're just pools of energy and nothing more than that. There's the other thought that they are external sources of information, that perhaps they're more, I guess, cosmic levels or higher intuitive levels of information that you can gain. Again, I tend to go more for the psychological component of choosing an entity and why I'm choosing it that way. Rosicrucians, for example, will tell you there's no reason to call on entity. You would just use your higher self or your power, that when you're doing a ritual, you're really calling on your higher self. And I have a video on my thoughts on that. And I tend to look at it as calling on my higher self as well, but doing the outward steps as well as, you know, having already gone inward to decide what I want to do and what I want to call on when I do the outward actions. So that's kind of some of the basics of invocation and entities and what they are and why you would call on them. When you're using an entity in a ritual, again, like I said, you'll want to make sure you've chosen one that you know is going to work for your ritual. You are going to want to set your ritual table up. If you're using an altar, have everything on it: candles, incense, crystals, your bowl of oil and wick, like I do. I like to make oil candles. Any sigils that you've created, anything that you want to charge and use while you're doing that ritual. If you have sigils, sometimes depending on the grimoires you're using, your entity may have a sigil that goes with it, or it may have words you use to invoke or call on them. Just whatever it is you're using, or you can make something up yourself. You know, you don't have to go with a grimoire. You can use your own information on how you want to do that. But you do want to be ready. You want to have your mind clear. You don't want to be making grocery lists. That's not a good time to do that. You want to be clear. You want to be focused so that when you start that ritual, you're really in the right frame of mind. When you're doing that ritual, you want to visualize those characteristics that that entity houses. If you're wanting to be healing, you want to focus on what it's like to be healed, to be strong, to be energetic, to be vital. If you're looking for power or protection, you want to really focus on what it is to be powerful, to be strong, to be fearless. So those are things you bring into your ritual. Not only that entity and those characteristics, you want to know what it feels like. Some grimoires may teach you when you're calling on an entity or doing an invocation, you're also bringing in smell, touch, anything like that to the five senses. So those are some things that you can do when you're invoking. Not only the visualization, but you're bringing in all the senses with that. What do they sound like? What do they feel like if you were to touch them? That type of thing. It just amplifies it and it brings the focus even more. And when you call on the entity, when you're ready for that part of your ritual, you will call them by name. And usually you will call them by name and include their attributes. If you're using angel magic, it might be, I call on you, Archangel Michael, one who is fierce, protective, one who knows no fear, one who is strong, brave, however you want to use that. If you're calling on Archangel Raphael, it might be, I call on you, Archangel Raphael, one who heals, one who strengthens, that type of thing. If you're wanting a battle or you're wanting to be warlike, you might call on the Morrigan or Kali. This depends on what you want to do, but you usually call them by name, you list their attributes, and you really visualize those characteristics in yourself and for your ritual. Now, you can invoke in different ways. And I didn't know this till I read this in Andre Vitimus's book, Chaos Magic. He goes into a whole thing on invocation. You can actually go third person, second person, and first person when you invoke. You can call on it in third person and say, Archangel Michael, you were fearless and full of bravery when you slayed the dragon. You have come many times and helped people who were in dire need of protection, that type of thing. It's like you're relating a story almost. Or you go second person, which can be like a lot of the ways most of us tend to do invocation. I call on you, Archangel Michael, one who is, and you list everything. So that's the second person. You can call it in first person. I am Archangel Michael. I'm strong, fearless, brave, protective. No harm can come to me, that type of thing. If you watch my other video, and I'll try to remember to put a link to it, you can invoke yourself. I, Scarlet Darkwood, who is full of power, energy, full of fierceness, bravery. I am protective, I am protected. I call on my own power, that type of thing. Probably using it in first person is a little bit, I guess, uncomfortable. And we're not used to looking at some of those attributes in ourselves. But you can invoke your own power. You can call on yourself. And you might want to try that. And you can again see the video that I did on that when I was using sun magic and invoking myself. And I actually did a whole retreat on invoking yourself. In the Witches box, Elena Rago does retreats on invoking yourself and calling on your own power. And calling on your own power, it really kind of, to me, fits nicely with more mystical hermetic teachings, and that when you're going within and you really are calling on your higher self or that collective consciousness, but you're really tuning into yourself. So even though it feels strange to invoke your own power or call on your own power, it's really all about you and using your own power. So those are just some things about invocation. They're just some of the basics. You can create your own tools or sigils for that. You can do different types of exercises in visualization and really trying to get those skills stronger to where you can really make your own ritual stronger and more powerful, in that you're pulling in all the senses to make that work for you. And basically our rituals, they work because you're focused and you're really imposing your own will to get a desired outcome, whether it's healing someone else or sending positive thoughts to the world, or just something that you need in your personal life. So those are some things to keep in mind. Tell me what you all think of invocation, and do you all use it? What do you do? How do you prepare for it? How do you go about choosing an entity? Do you even use an entity? Or do you just truly use yourself? Some people like an outward conduit, some people use themselves. Love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments, and hope everyone has a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.